Welcome everyone. I'm online right now. We've got about 30 plus people that are online, including a person from Franconia in northern Bavaria. Very nice. And for those of you online, we have about a dozen people here in the room in Portland, and hopefully a few more will come on in. So welcome. Welcome to Sunday Soul, our very last service. My name is Terry Bernor. I'm the intern minister here, and it's been such a joy to have you part of this, for you to walk through all of the technology and experimentation that we're doing. And now I'm going to turn it over to the Reverend Lynn Unger, who will give us our formal welcome for the service.
Welcome to this final Sunday Soul worship. We're so glad that you've joined us, whether you're in the room in Portland or whether you're watching on Monday from across the world. Your presence as part of this unique bionic worship experience, part live in the flesh and part technological, it all forms one unique, caring community, and your presence here is an important part of it. This is our last Sunday Soul service, as I said, and so we'd really appreciate it if you would go to sundaysoul.org and fill out the survey to let us know what worked for you, what was challenging, what was interesting, how you could envision something like this going forward in the future. So we really would appreciate your input. And now, in this season of the equinox, of the balance between light and dark, summer and winter, I invite you into this time of worship, of finding our own balance in our lives and in the world. Come, let us worship together.
And so much pain. The practice of balancing is a survival skill. We have the capacity to notice, to be aware, but also the capacity to not notice, to close our eyes and even our hearts. Focus on only the beauty or only the pain. Focus on only the movement of compassion or only the persistence of oppression. Either offers a tunnel vision that will ultimately not sustain us. Yet perfect balance can suggest a stillness that will never move us forward toward love. So come now into this space where we together can remain aware and stay awake, awake to the hope our lives represent. Come now together, because life is in the balance.
So our gathering forms a community with no geographic edge. Here in Portland and across the world online, we come together to seek what is deepest and most true, to cultivate imagination, wonder, and the courage to act, and to care for one another. Will the people here in the room join me in saying, we light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love. The chalice is lit in Portland.
Our opening song is Come Whoever You Are, and this is a familiar traditional opening song for the Church of the Larger Fellowship. So we want to say a special hello to everyone of the CLF friends online. And even though we here in Portland won't be able to hear you sing, we can all imagine the beautiful chorus of voices coming together from everywhere. So this song is a round, so after we get done singing it all the way through, we will break up into groups and sing it, and we got well represented two sides of the room here. So let's see, we'll probably have Rich do that side of the room, and I'll do this side of the room, and you guys will go first. But before we get to any of that, there's actually a little repeated pattern that goes at the beginning. It goes like this. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. So you can keep singing that. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, broken your vows and vows enslaved, broken your yet again vows. This side first. Though you've broken your vows, sing come, come. Come, come, whoever you are. This side. Wandering worshiper, lover of leave. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leave. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come yet again, come.
We carry within us joys that are too great for one heart to hold, sorrows that are too much for one heart to bear, local and world events which call upon us to bear witness. So in the heart of love and in the spirit of prayer, I invite you now to share your joys or sorrows in the chat window, to sit silently, or to light a candle.
Will you enter with me now the space of silence and honesty, which is known by many names? Will you pray with me? Spirit of life, Spirit of love, we bring all of ourselves to this time and this space, our strengths and our weaknesses, our hurts and our hope. We create this community. We create it to welcome us and to welcome all that we bring, to hold it all somehow. May this time help us find our center. Find our center not to abandon the areas of strength or the areas of anxiety and the fear that we hold, but help us find a center that somehow holds them all, so that in the presence of our challenges and our struggles, in the presence of all the loss and the disappointment we face, there is still room for joy and a deep satisfaction and a trust in the possibility our coming together makes real. May that be faith enough to see us through. So may it be, and amen.
So I invite you into a call and response segment. This was written by the Reverend Lynn Unger, and I'm sharing it on her behalf. And this segment will introduce us to this theme of balance that we're exploring today. In the season of the equinox, the balance point of summer and winter, light and dark, so much it seems hangs in the balance. Climate change has come to a tipping point where we must choose what we will do to shape the future of life. The U.S. political scene has come to a tipping point of populist engagement that could slide toward nationalist rage or compassionate civic interchange. Racial justice in this moment holds both exhilarating successes and terrifying backlash in the balance. And each of us, in the midst of all of this, has to find our own balance. So after I say each of the following lines, please respond out loud or in chat this phrase: may we find our balance. Let us begin. Each of us has to find where and how we weigh in, how our work and our living tip the scales in these precarious times. May we find our balance. We may need to shift the balance from expecting that we be heard as experts toward a discipline of attentive listening. May we find our balance. Or we may need to shift the balance from being silenced to demanding that our voices be heard. May we find our balance. We may need to shift our longings away from resource-intensive goodies and toward a discipline of simplicity. May we find our balance. Or we may need to allow our frustration with how little we have to slide toward a demand for economic justice. May we find our balance. We may need to move the weight of anxiety about these uncertain and changing times toward excitement that so much is unfolding so rapidly. May we find our balance. And we may need to give up the pleasures of knowing we are right in favor of the gift of seeing that we never knew was there. May we find may we find our balance. So as we tip and we wobble our way toward balancing the scales of justice, may we see more clearly, listen more deeply, touch more gently, taste in our mouths the possibilities that are always inherent in a season of change. May it be so, and amen.
I remember years ago going on a long-awaited vacation to the Atlantic coast. We were in Delaware, and there had just, the week we were going, a big hurricane came in the South Atlantic, not near Delaware, but enough that the ocean where we were was unswimmable. And so a week at the beach turned into a week where we were forbidden to go into the water. The undertow was dreadful, and people were simply not allowed in. On the last day of our vacation, finally it was decreed that we could wade, that it was okay to go in no higher than our knees. And so with great delight, I went into the water and did what I love to do in the ocean, just sink my feet into the sand, feeling the sand slowly move beneath them as the waves come back and forth on my feet. But on this day, there was nothing slow about it. Indeed, as I stood there, the ground beneath me was washed away so quickly that I literally fell down. I fell into the waves. And I realized quickly that standing, digging my toes into the sand was not going to be an option. So I looked around to see who was enjoying the beach, and what I noticed was the kids. The kids were not standing in the water. The kids were dancing. The children around me were finding their balance not by placing their feet carefully down, but indeed by staying in motion. So I want to lift up today the idea of a dance that we might do as we struggle to keep our balance. And it's a three-step. It's a three-step waltz. And the first step of this dance is the step of acceptance that we are going to fall down. We are going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen that we didn't expect. We're going to be knocked into the waves. We're going to lose our breath. We're going to get mucky and sandy, and that is just part of the dance. And indeed, learning to fall gracefully is the first important skill that we need to have so that we're not surprised, so that we know when we feel the ground going out beneath us, we know how to fall with as little damage to our system as possible. The second step of this dance is that the way to do it best is to look around and see who is doing it well and learn from them. We who are people of privilege have this horrible liability that we don't know what we don't know, because part of privilege is being taught from our earliest memory that what we know is the only thing people need to know. It's everything, in fact. And so there's nothing we need to look for. There's nothing that we are missing. If something isn't working, we need to fix it because we have all the tools that were needed. But in this three-step, that is not the case. We need to look to those who have known for years that white supremacist violence is in our country and to learn how to deal with it from them. We need to learn from those who learned hundreds of years ago that the people making profits from the land don't care about the future and care only about the greed of the moment. And we need to learn from the indigenous peoples of the world how to fight back and how to survive. Now, this is not easy for us because part of our conditioning is to learn when we're privileged that to look for other people for answers is our failure. I remember decades ago my first deep friendship with an African-American woman, the first one where there was honesty about race. And one day my friend came to me and said something terrible had happened and explained her experience of racism that day and how hurt she was by it. And I did what so many of us who are white do with all the wisdom of our privilege. I presumed that I knew better than she did what had happened, even though I wasn't there. And I said to her that I was sure she had misinterpreted what happened, and that I'm sure the person didn't mean it, and that person is a good person, and they wouldn't do that. And she looked at me, and she said with great sadness, I didn't talk to you because I needed to hear what a white person had to say. I talked to you because I needed the support of a friend. And in that moment, I saw that I could choose to stay on the track of whiteness. And I did see this like a model train track where you can flip a switch and the train will go one way or the other. And that I could go on the track of sticking with loyalty to white people known and unknown. Or I could flip a switch and I could go a different way to friendship and support. And I flipped that switch consciously. And I went to friendship and support. And either way that I went, I didn't know what happened. But when I went to friendship and support, I had a friend. And I was being a friend. And I find that the more that I can be conscious of those moments and flip the switch and go towards being a friend to people who are oppressed, known, and unknown, you don't need to flip a switch to stick with your privilege. That's the one track that we're given at birth that we see all the time. So the first step of this dance is to accept that we're going to fall and to learn to fall as gracefully as we can, knowing that it will happen again and again. The second step is to look around for people who are living the written wisdom of people who have died, the wisdom of our ancestors. Look around for people who know how to do this dance when the ground is moving under our feet, and to learn from them. And the third step of the dance, and this is a really hard one for those of us who are privileged, is to decenter our privilege, is to learn that it's not personal. Now, that goes so much against what privilege teaches us again, right? Because privilege says that we are unique individuals, each one as precious as a snowflake, no two alike. Everything about us is important, our feelings are important. And when we not deny that, but put it into a larger context to say, there's a bigger story, there's a much bigger dance than how our body is moving. Look around the globe, look around who else is dancing and what kind of dances they have been doing for centuries. So when we take all of that attention off of ourselves, there's a great freedom that comes that can lighten us up in the movement if we quit thinking so much about everything about ourselves and become part of a larger dance. In fact, if we let go of that role that we think we've been given, the role of knowing what's right and good and true, and we say, here we are in the dance with everyone else, trying to make up for some things that we didn't learn decades ago, we can be so much better dancers, and it's so much easier. This truth that it's not personal is so hard for us to learn, for whom everything has been tailor-made just for us. It's so hard to believe that, in fact, it's not all about our individual selves. It's about collective identities that we've created together. And of course, we're all individuals. Some of us have been given the privilege of hearing that our individual stories matter from the day we took our first breath, and others have never been asked to share their stories. And so there's this huge relief when we lay it down that it's all about us, when we set it aside and when we say instead, let me be part of the dance.
There is hurting in my family. There is sorrow in my town. There is panic in the nation. There is wailing the whole world round. I am open and I am willing to be whole.
Yeah, that may be sermon enough. You know, it is not easy to maintain balance as we walk about in the world. And I know this because in recent years, my walking has gotten more difficult, as many of you know. It's called a neuropathy, so Western medicine tells me, and there's no cure. It's just that the nerves don't work right anymore. There's no pain, but there's no cure. And so balance, especially standing without support, well, let's just say that I hold up more walls now than I ever used to a few years ago. And I've had to get comfortable asking if I can put a hand on a shoulder of a friend or a colleague when there's not a wall near enough for me to lean against. So coming to live with physical limitations has had its upside. Those relationships with colleagues and friends that I asked to put my hand, that's actually a good thing. But it's not been all that easy, truth be told. So finding balance is not just a metaphor for me. But I'm mindful that our theology actually demands a kind of a spiritual balancing act. We say that revelation is not sealed, that there's no certainty for us. We are all and always works in process. That's who we are religiously. And the balancing act is required not only because the injustice of the world and the disappointments and losses of our living can so easily throw us off balance. The balancing act is required because despite our theology, we all yearn for balance. We want it to be a balance in which justice prevails and in which hope is not an idle dream, but for all that, we all yearn for balance. And so, if, as Meg Riley preached, we decenter our privilege. Those of you who are white, decenter your whiteness. Those of us who are male, decenter our male. Those of us who are privileged in all of those ways, decenter that privilege and all of the assumptions that go with it, because this is learning that takes place from the cradle right on up to the present. If we let go of those assumptions, do we end up just replacing one hierarchy with another? Do we find some other idol that we can worship? Do we replace whiteness with blackness, or being a person of color? Do we replace the greed of the open market with socialism and make of that an idol? Do we replace our approach to the earth with one which takes advantage of it and adopt a kind of simplicity but make of that an idol? Do we replace one hierarchy with another? T.S. Eliot wrote, "I said to my soul, be still and wait without hope, for hope would be hope for the wrong thing. Wait without love, for love would be love of the wrong thing. There is yet faith, but the faith and love are all in the waiting. Wait without thought, for you are not ready for thought. So the darkness shall be the light, and the stillness shall be the dancing." Not ready for hope, not ready for love. He tells a cautionary tale here. Or can we find some way to live in the messiness, in the not knowing, in the not being sure? Can we find a different way to dance? Ethicist Sharon Welch writes that white men particularly define action as control, but that African American writers and womanist writers more especially say that the process is actually one of taking one step so that the next step can be revealed. You take one step so that another step is made possible. And then you have faith. Balance. So many of our commitments begin with the negative. Not that. No creeds for us. Not that. No oppression of the earth for us. Not that. No racism for us. Not that. And there is power in knowing what we do not and cannot accept. There is power in knowing what we cannot accept as God or as the way things have to be. There is real power in that. It's resistance, actually, is what it is. And that was the message of last week's service. But we also have to shape the positive as we go. It's not simply a business of resistance. And the reality is that the beloved community does not come with a blueprint. It's not some assembly required, start here and simply follow the carefully written technical directions. No, so there's persistence that's involved because we will take wrong turns. We will fall down in the dance. Or we'll take turns that end up offering partial but not complete results. We've taken a lot of those in this society, starting back in the 60s and perhaps well before that. And the reality is that we will hold somewhat different visions. Even in this room and this virtual space, there will be many focal points of our concern. For some, it will be the Black Lives Matter movement. For some, it will be all of the work we have yet to do on trans equity. For some, climate change will gather the energy and the focus. But we need to find a way to be together with those different focuses. And how do we navigate that? Can we find a way to commit wholeheartedly while knowing that there are no guarantees, that there are no stone tablets to guide us? Can the stillness, can the lack of certainty still allow us to dance? There's one more thing that I would say today. Facing the world that we face, it is awfully easy to be grim. It's awfully easy to demand a kind of solid determination of ourselves. And, you know, that dedication to change the world is important, but we also need to find the possibility of joy in the work, in our commitment, and in our coming together. Reverend Victoria Safford writes, I believe that suffering and death may be part of some grand natural cycle, tragic only because we alone among the animals are so aware of mortality and time. Suffering and death, she writes, may be inevitable, but they are not a part of happiness at all. And that makes clear the urgency for joy. It is a dance. It is a way of walking in the world, not searching for the balance of stillness, not yearning for stasis, but finding delight in taking the one next step we can and having faith that another step will be somehow miraculously made possible.
We are dancing in the light of God. 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 We are dancing, ooh, we are dancing in the light of God. We are dancing, ooh, we are dancing in the light of God. We are marching, we are marching in the light of God. 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 We are singing 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 in the light of God. We are singing, we are singing, ooh, we are singing in the light of God. We are singing, we are singing, ooh, we are singing in the light of God. We are singing in the light of God. We are singing in the light of God.
So as we move forward in our lives, whether we're singing or dancing or marching or moving, each of us has the power to take actions, large or small. These are actions which impact the world around us. And it's easy to deny that we have such power, this power to co-create our world. But if we yoke our intention to create beloved community with actual steps that take us there, we may find ourselves in places we never, ever imagined. So the question today is, what step will you take? What step will you take today, this week, or as you move about in your own life that brings new possibilities into being? And on this first day of spring, what seeds will you plant to grow more justice? Please feel free to share in chat, to share amongst yourselves in the next couple of minutes. What seeds will you plant to grow more justice?
Our final Sunday Soul. This experiment has brought together an online and an in-person community. And all of those who have been involved hope that you have found both some comfort and some challenge in our coming together. It has certainly been a challenge for us, but so rewarding in these 8 weeks. We end this 8-week series not with a conclusion, but with an invitation. An invitation to hold a vision of the beloved community and to persist in resisting anything less. An invitation to find in our commitments the fulfillment of our calling. And an invitation to find a stillness, a balance that empowers action, and a balance that opens our heart to joy. So may it be. And on this final Sunday Soul, I want to take a moment to thank all of you who are here, all of you who have participated in these 8 weeks. Thanks to all of you for joining us on this journey. I want to thank all of my colleagues who helped lead these services, especially Meg Riley, Tom Disrude, Terry Bernor, whose internship here at First is probably one of the more challenging ones in the history of internships in Unitarian Universalism. Kate Lohr, Lynn Unger, Mark Bellatini. I want to thank our wonderful musicians led by Dustin Hunley. Thank Rich. Thank our guests who brought so much of themselves and offered their gifts to share. I want to thank all of them. And you've seen pictures of those folks who did not get to stand up front here, although one of them is here in person today. All those folks who have been working in the back to make this remarkable technological thing happen. So, thank you all for being with us. Thank you all for creating this community. May it be a source of hope for us all.
And now we come to that time in our service when we extinguish the chalices we've lit to mark this time together. But the flame of love, the flame of our commitment to a just and caring world burns eternal. So if you carry the flame, please say with me now or chat online, I carry the flame. I carry the flame. All right, Dustin, bring us home.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if you have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody